Helps if I unmute myself. And video. Great. Sometimes that helps. All right, so let's start the next project. Now, if you're still working on your revolve and such, that's perfectly fine. The next project is we're taking a detour and recombobulating the course a little bit because I didn't like the next project anymore. It's kind of boring. So let's jump ahead and kind of mix and match a little bit and kind of jump off of what we did already. The next project is going to be what was the 5th project. Just rearranging things. This will be adding joints into the projects. So this one will be about learning how to make things move. Just some basics, and also how to import hardware. That meaning, like I said, literally making things move. We're going to have 2 examples for this project. You're only required to do one of them, but we're going to have 2 different options. You are either to make a container for something specific. So it'll be whatever container you choose. It's got to have some kind of opening component. So it has, or some kind of opening element. It will require at least 2 components, actually 3, because you'll have your whatever top, bottom, left, right, whatever, however it's opening, and the hardware itself. It'll obviously have to have a joint somewhere. But what we're going to model is tonight we're going to do a container, and then next we're going to make a pair of pliers. Your choice of what you want to model. Now, the trick to this is, as we just talked about, our schedule is going to be a little bit screwy for the next few weeks. So I'm going to work on this model, and then we'll go from there. But effectively, to go back over the project, it is just that. You're going to be making you have the option of either making a utilitarian tool that moves, something out of this, pliers, scissors, you get the idea, or a container for a specific object. So that could be a container for said pliers or whatever, lunchbox. Some people want to learn how to make containers, enclosures for like programmable cards and such for electronics projects, that sort. So you get the idea. All right, so the component or the elements of the project, obviously accurate measurement of the project or of the original object. We are going to be going over how to use a set of digital calipers. So it has to actually have the correct values, or as close as you could get them. Again, at least effectively 3 components. That will be one side of the thing, the other side of the thing, and then also we're going to be importing hardware from an extension on Fusion. And there you go, from the specifically McMaster-Carr extension. It's actually a website for getting frankly all manner of things, but namely in this case fasteners and such. So I'm going to show you how to use that. And the good thing is that is a direct translation, so you could then go, hey, I like this model, this is the hardware I want to use, I'm going to order these parts and have them here in a couple of days. Cool. And then of course one joint. It must somehow move, or actually we're going to talk about a couple of different options, but we'll get there. So again, examples: pliers, scissors, lidded container, item, tool case for a thing that has some sort of insert cavity, that sort, you get it. And then of course, we're going to be doing some examples, like I said, container, and then a pair of pliers or so. And this all focuses on reading a caliper, so measurement, again, construction lines, a little more involved, sketching, flashing. Standard still extruding and cutting from sketches, multiple components, namely joints, again, the McMaster-Carr extension, and appearance and stuff. This you'll probably want to actually apply to. Now, right now, I have this as to be decided due date because of the weird schedule things we're coming up on. We're going to talk about the solution for that soon. All right, so let me change over and we'll get started. Back to Fusion. Hello, old friend. All right. So first, using a pair of digital calipers. Now, if you are unfamiliar with calipers, this is simply a measuring device that opens and closes that is great for measuring either external dimensions, so the tines that are outside, great for especially measuring round things, or these other tines, great for getting inside, which is exactly what they're for. Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The other thing that sticking out, the bit sticking out the end is not an accident. It is a function. So you can use that as a depth gauge. So just dropping down until it hits like the bottom or so. Another way of measuring actually straight down. Thank you. I was about to forget that. Now, these are anything but high dollar. If you want your own, I highly recommend them. These are plastic. They're pretty cheap in all sense of the word. But they switch digitally from inches and millimeters. So there's that convenience right there. The other ones switch from, and these are just decimals. Other ones switch from decimal and fractional. These don't. And it's got an on-off. That's about it. But I have these for you if you'd like. It's just an excellent way of taking more measurements, especially as we're going to be measuring rounded things and such. All right. Well, first things first, what do I want to model? Well, you make that decision. We're going to go from there. Now, tonight, I want to model just a container. And if there's time, we'll get to the rest. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a model for, let's make a model for my calipers. Let's be a little meta with it. All right. So where do you start? Start with at least a basic sketch of what you're trying to do, because there you go. If I was trying to model this directly, it'd make more sense. If I was trying to model something else, well, duh. So to model the thing that I'm modeling, all right, so real quick, I'm just going to throw together a quick outline of this caliper. So first thing, just like before, take some measurements. But in all reality, let's actually start with saving. So moving down to new project. Where is? Let's open the folder first, because it never really likes to do that. Come on. There we go. Hey, new folder. All right. Save. Example. Caliper box. All right. So first, I'm going to start a new component. I close all that. And this is going to be my caliper outline. Great. All right. What are we dealing with? General measurements. All right. I'm going to take a measurement here. It is 240 long. So let's start with the sketch. Let's start smack in the middle, because it seems to be easier to work from the middle. Center point rectangle right there. I want it needs to be, first off, tab over, 240 millimeters long. And well, right now I'm just going to make just this basic shaft part. And that is, and that thing is about 15 millimeters. Where are you? All right, up and running. All right. Lengthwise for these little guys, that is about 50 out. And let's say 25. So I'm still going to use this as a basic sketch, meaning I'm not going to set it as a set of construction lines or anything yet, but that's okay. All right. Let's see here. I want a rectangle again. No, let's use 2 point. From right there in the center. Come on, catch up. What's going on here? Literally the crosshair is not going over. What the heck? Cool. Yeah, why not? I don't know what's going on there. There we go. I don't know why it was refusing to work. Why wouldn't it be mildly problematic? And then down from about there, that is about 50. Cool. And then that is 30. Let's do a quick line right in the center, construction line. I'm just making the tines here. There we go. That's construction line. that's roughly where my break begins. Not mental, just in this part. So I'm just flipping back and forth between some construction lines and roughly the start of the tines here. All right, that's pretty much the side there. I'm modeling just these little teeth here. Then I'm going to do the back side, which is, keep getting the metric and other flip-flopping. That is about 15 from the back. Right there. 15. All right. Repeat line from there. How far out do you go? 15 again. And then the top is a sort of kind of ish. Like that. Now, obviously, this is not a complete model, and I would expect y'all to finish this out. I'm just trying to get this knocked out for the sake of, where did my line go? For the sake of in class here. Cool. All right, now I want to work smarter, not harder, and mirror some lines. So select those. My mirror line is that. Beep. Looks like I didn't have the backside quite centered where I should have been. So fine, I'll fix it. Works. Let me select that, delete it. I probably did it wrong the second time. Okay. And then the main thing here is 55 by 25. Rectangle right up there, and that is 25 by 55. Cool. All right, that is roughly, obviously I'm missing some details, but there we are. And I'll do a quick extrude just to get me to what I need. Extrude all of these parts. And that is roughly, and then that part, and my sketch disappears afterwards. That part's 15. Okay. Repeat extrude or press pull. That's okay. My sketches are hidden because they're jerks. 15. Operation join. Cool. Okay. Rough caliper. Obviously, take a little more time, get the details down. Cool. Save. Caliper modeled. Should have been quotation marks. All right. So now I want to start adding more components. I want to start adding the bottom, the top, and so on and so forth. So for that, first things first, I need to actually literally add the components. So I like to go ahead and throw them all in at once. That way I can go back just like I did for the Revolve vessel project. So first things first, reactivate the entire project, go up, new components. So we'll do with bottom. Now, when I click OK, it's going to automatically activate that component. What you can do, and it should save between each one, go back, activate the top, because I don't want these to be nested. New component. At the bottom of the toolbox here, there's a checkbox to activate. Deselect that, and it won't do what it says and activate. So now, top. There we go. Stayed where it was. Excellent. Okay. Yes.
We're doing a box, right?
Yes.
What is this?
This is what it's going to hold. What the box is going to be going to hold. Sorry. This is what the box will hold.
Why would you do a step further?
Because I want to make sure that it fits inside the box. And the box has to actually, the point is not just to build a box, but to specifically, or to hold a specific item, so that it's not just an empty box versus someone that's going through the trouble of modeling an entire set of pliers. Always good to ask those questions. Appreciate it. Okay, so this is going to be my container. Now, the shape and size of the container is totally up to you. It can be a pretty standard box. We can make it all kinds of organic formed, like a pair of like eyeglass cases or something like that. Main thing with constraints, remember that our print bed is about, it's not actually cubed, but it's about 200 millimeters cubed. It's not actually cubed, but it's not much bigger than that. So if you were going to print this, can't make it too much bigger than that. So this pair of calipers is, use my inspect tool, one side to the other, 240. That might be problematic, but we'll find out. All right. So let's start working on the bottom here. My first project, or my first component, ghosts out. That's exactly what I want. So for this, I'm just going to start with a, just make it a basic box. I'm going to make some modifications to that. So with that, back to our friend, the sketch. Start a new sketch, working on the XY plane here, the basic tabletop plane, just like the other ones. The other ones have been done. Looking at the top, rotate because I want to keep the same orientation. I'm going to start with a center point rectangle. Go down to rectangle. Now this is supposed to be on my toolbox or on my toolbar, but as I said, my screen is much smaller. You can add and subtract tools from that. So go to there, center point, smack in the middle. I just need to make sure it's big enough to hold the this. Now, right now, that's probably bigger than I need it to be, as in, all right, long enough, sure. Let's make that an even 260. Whoops, wrong one. 260, tab back over. Well, now that's locked. 100. Pretty good. Problem is that's not in the center. I'll move the caliper sketch over. So, okay, that's good. That's gonna be my starting point. I'll move the caliper component over in a moment. All right. From here, this is where you start your fillets, anything like that that you need, that you like. So I'm going to go ahead and just start to round this over a little bit. So I'm going to use the fillet tool. Start on one. What happened? Between there and there. There we are. 25 is way excessive. Let's say more like 10. All right. Remember that if you do not select out, or rather hit enter, you can go around and continue to select all the corners, and it will link all of the fillets together. Now I can actually adjust all of them at once if I want, but I'm going to keep it back at that 10 because that seemed reasonable. Maybe make it 15. Okay, great. All right. So if I were just making a straightforward box container, I could probably just start with that. Now, like with the badge project, you can also use like the offset tool or start another sketch, or sorry, start another inset to create walls and such. So again, though, I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. First, I'm going to use the offset tool. I want to select the whole thing, and I'm going to say 3mm walls. 3 is a good measurement. I want to go internal, so hit negative, straightforward. There we are. This I'm going to keep running into. Get you out of the way, ruler. Okay, finish sketch. All right. So before I confuse myself, let me reactivate the caliper, and let's just move that whole component. Now, when I activate the move tool, which was either up here or press M, you actually have a selection box up top where you can move the entire component. So as we discussed, components, it contains sketches, bodies, and anything else. It's a whole complete package. So if I leave it as component selection, I can do exactly that. Now I can move everything so that it's not going to cause errors and such later. Like it's not going to leave the sketch where it was and only move the body if I were only moving the body. So I'm going to use that. I slide that up to where it looks a little more proper. 15. Cool. Okay. Now, one of the things I want to show you, let's see if it does this or not. Okay. I moved the tool, hit OK. A new tool item shows up. Upper right-hand corner, you have these two L-looking shapes. One says capture position, one says revert. Sounds pretty obvious. if you move a component, object, body, sketch, any and all, whatever, it will usually ask you if you want to capture the new position or revert. Because when you move something like that, if you don't move the whole thing, maybe parts get left behind, whatever. But ultimately, you might not like where it is. So if you moved it to a new spot, that could be exactly what you want or not. And because components and stuff like that can also hold things like joints, which we're going to be learning about in a moment, and many, many other things, it's just making sure that where you put it now is where you want it now. So the option is hit revert. That's Control Z basically, and it puts everything right back where it was. If I hit capture, goes away. Now what it has done, it has now located also all of its relevant location points. Like when I made this caliper, like that main bar there, I used a center point rectangle. That center point was originally locked and kept the coordinates of the origin point, which just means the computer program had it locked in place to where it was relative to that original point and other such sort of things. When you capture position, it moves all the information over to its new set of coordinates. Complex way of saying everything now goes where it's supposed to be. All right, so I moved it over. Everything's where it's good. Everything where it is where I want it to be. Super freaking duper. All right, so go back to the bottom. That's where I want to work. Okay. Extrude. Now I can select the whole thing, or rather, hang on a second. I can select just that ring now, and I can move this upwards and make this box as deep as I want it to go, which is a general extrude. Or had I not selected, or had I not made that outline, and we use this in my Bender coin example for the extrude or for the badge extrude. The other option is in extrude is called thin extrude. This basically creates a wall from a single line, so you wouldn't have to have made that separate offset. Really convenient way of making dividers inside of things and all that such. So I select just that line, bam, automatic wall. So really convenient way of streamlining your workflow. And you can of course set the wall thickness to exactly what I was originally going to do, 3 millimeters. So work smarter, not harder option. That's really where it's at. So the base, if that thing's 15 millimeters thick, let's make that 18. I want it to be pretty slim, or as slim as I can make it probably. Okay. Now that of course left the whole bottom open. So I'm going to do another extrude, this time as the whole thing, regular extrude. I have to unhide the sketches again because it does that. Select the inside as well as the outside. Got to make sure all the things are selected. And I'm just going to go downward. Let's just say 2 millimeters. So negative goes downward. Awesome. Operation built in. You want to join those parts together? Great. Okay. Now, of course, this would be, no, of course, we're going to add fillets and things like that and add some details to it. But making the bottom of something, there we go. That's the bottom part. Let's make the top. Okay. Let's save here first. Bottom modeled. All right. Activate the top. Okay. Now I'm working up here now. I can create a sketch, back down to the original set of plane coordinates. Problem is that's effectively building, like for the caliper and such, that's effectively starting right back where I started from, but I need to be working up here. So what I can do, and as I said, Fusion will work on anything that is visible. If you don't want it to be affected by what you're doing, hide it. I was going to say make it invisible. Hide it. But I don't want to do that in this case. What I can do, instead of selecting the original plane coordinates and such, I can actually, it's hard to see because the first component is ghosted out, but I can select, let me see, let me mouse over here so you can see a little more clearly, or tell you what, let me change my environment style, might be able to see a little. There we go. Just change the background a bit. You see, as I mouse over that upper lip, my grid plane is actually now appearing on the very top there. I select there. Now I'm going to be working on this plane. I'm already starting at the lip of my project, or at the lip of my box. Awesome. Now, I can redraw everything, sure. But another thing you can work with is use the project tool. You press P, brings that up. This allows you to bring sketches from a lower area or anything like that and project them literally like the projector does outward. The sketch is now in my hand. That's effectively what it's doing. So it's a really convenient way of, instead of redrawing anything like that, especially if you have like a complex or curved model and you want to work at the outermost edge, do that. So what I can do now, I can select. Problem is you got to kind of go around and select literally everything. So it is problematic doing that way. But if I want to select all the upper parts there, let's move my view cube, use the selection box, and just make sure that I'm grabbing. That's not letting me do it. Fine. It's not letting me do a selection box. So I've got to go around and select all of these parts. Ugh, what a pain. All right, so project sometimes is problematic. All right. And of course, now that I've changed the environment over where you can see one thing easier, now let me try a couple different ones. See, we'll just go back to photo booth. All right. So those ones I've selected, they've now turned light purple. Easier to see that way. Come on. Hit OK. Now, if I hide the bottom, now that sketch line is all up top. So it's a convenient way of pulling stuff. Yeah, it was kind of obnoxious to have to go through and select every single one. I don't know why you can't use a selection box. Anyhow, all right, I'm going to make a lid from this. So now, same, finish sketch for now. We'll use that. Use the extrude tool. But, oh, this is the other part I forgot about. I always forget about this. Because I borrowed projections from that sketch, not from the original sketch, but from the top of that box, it assumes I might want to use other stuff from that same plane. So even though I did not select that inner line of the walls of my box there, it assumed I would probably want those, so it actually held the geometry of that. So convenient. So now if I want to make the lid, I can select just that rim, and let's extrude up. Let's just say like 2 millimeters. That's fine. Say okay. Okay, cool, great. And now I'm working in reverse. I just made the lid, but whereas before I had the sketch on that plane, and I could create the bottom of my container by just then extruding the opposite direction. Well, now the problem is I'm extruding in further and further away, completely opposite direction. That's okay. What I can do, let me hide that again, is you can start and stop from not just at the origin point. So let me bring up extrude again, press E. Back down, open up my sketches because it always hides those. So what I want is both that intersection and that lip. And I want that to say, we'll say 2 again. 2 is a good number. Problem is that just overlaps what I just did. So extent, distance, however, my start point is not at the origin plane. I want to start from an object. So now what I can do is select, and I might have to do that in the opposite thing there. Hang on a second. Go back to 0 because it can't read over on the same. All right. So my extent type. Oh, sorry. Start point to object or from object. I want to start by selecting that new upper lip. Now, when I'd say, all right, let's do this at 2 millimeters. Now it's building it on top. See, the lip is still there, but I'm building that extrusion up above. So it's just a convenient way of stacking things without having to like redraw a whole bunch of things. I'm just borrowing sketches, borrowing lines, and stacking them on top of each other. And operation join, there we go. Awesome. Okay. Really basic starting and stop, or sorry, lid and case. Reactivate the whole thing. Let's hide some sketches because that is getting confusing. Okay, save. Lid modeled. All righty. I have a very, very basic container. Effectively, I've just made like a long Altoids tin. All right. Well, cool. Now what? Now let's start with the hinge and such. Now, what we're going to be using is the other default icon up by the create new component, which is joint. But we got to have something to actually join that to first. So let's build a very basic joint. So what I want to do is on the back side here, I want to build basically like a door hinge, a door joint, you know, a barrel joint. It's got a pin going through it, and it has two sides that interlock, kind of like that. Kind of. Easy way to build something like this. So I need to build something along this line here. Well, I have started multiple things. I've started different drawings on two different components. How can I get something to share? That's what I have to keep redrawing that. Well, I just showed you how to use the projection tool. Very convenient. But what I can do is I have made sure to draw all of my stuff within their own component. When I go back to the very top of the hierarchy tree and activate the whole project, now I'm going to draw something on that plane or on that original full component so that anything else can share it. This is why you want to draw things that could be shared outside of their individual component. So I can't get to the origin because all this crap's in the way. Well, let me hide the caliper, top and bottom. That's all right. I can get to it now. I just want that plane. So it's the it's the YZ plane. All right, reactivate the bottom. Now I'm working. You can see the profile. I'm just working in front of me, from the side. Select right, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a really basic hinge out here. But I'm not drawing it on any of the other components so that I can use it later. So basic hinge is, let's say, start with a circle. I don't want a center point. I want a, let's see here, 2-point circle. Sure. I'm going to start my first point right on there. And what seems like a good size? Well, ideally, you're going to figure out what kind of hardware you want, but let's say I'll make it 5. Sure. Start out there. Great. Now I'm going to start a concentric circle right there. And let's say 3. Okay. That is going to be my center coil or the center core of my hinge. But I need stuff to connect. So this is where the project tool comes in again, because I want to add what is effectively a fillet to any of these, but not actually a fillet. So I'm going to hit project. And now I'm going to select the side of both the top and bottom component. Selection filter is just these parts. It's not the whole body. Click OK. Now, when I go to hide these, I have these shared, or I have borrowed the sketch lines from those. Basically meaning that also, if had I already added fillets, let's say, nope. Stop it. Let's roll the history slider back to there and unhide. Let's say, let's add a surface, or let's add a, one more. There we go. Let's add a fillet to the top here, and let's just say, I don't know, sure, 1.5. That works. Now, when I take the history slider all the way to the front again, and I just went back in time with my history slider, moved it back. That's all. So now when I hide the top, now it's only catching from there to there. It's not that whole top. So basically, it can evolve, all that sort of thing. It helps for you to share accurate geometry. That's all. Or rather, let me open up the sketch again. And if I hit project again, select that also. Now when I go and hide that, it's sharing also that fillet. Basically, just that way you can see really where you need to be, that sort of thing. All right. Anyway, let's draw some lines. Just do a line here and let's say up there somewhere. Now, as I move upward, you can see my constraints come up. Constraints, remember, are all the stuff up here. They're ways of just snapping your lines to different things and different elements within your drawing. So as I move up here, snaps in place, the little triangle or my crosshair goes to an X and a triangle comes up. That's a midpoint. It's showing me it's right in the middle of that fillet. Click OK, cool. But I want to make sure this all matches up. So I want to use the tangent constraint, which puts that line instead of where it is, it actually puts it at a direct tangent to that circle. So select there. I want to select the line first, what I want to make a tangent, and then to what I want to make a tangent to. Select there. The line extends, resnaps, all of that. Convenient. And let's do something similar down here. There and there. Okay. I don't know, something. Again, I want to reconstrain the tangent to there. Ooh, resnaps entirely. Perfect. That'll work. Hit OK. Unhide this stuff. Let me save here. All right. Hinge. Sketched. All right. Now I have, it's harder to see, sorry. Now I have drawn the basics, or sorry, the very basic starting of my hinge, not within any of the components, but under the main shared component. Makes it a lot easier to do this stuff. And now what I want to do is I'm going to extrude sideways to create my hinge parts. So first I'm going to start with thing for the lid. All right. So what I want that to do is I want to go down, activate the lid component. And you see, because that sketch is part of all the shared stuff, I can still see it and interact with it. Great. So let me hit extrude. And I want to select that ring and that little part that connects to the top of the lid. And I can extrude now straight out, and it starts creating a hinge part. But I don't like that at all. Meaning I want it to go both sides. So I go down, direction, symmetric, and now you can either enter, you have two options for your measurements. Either it's going to be, say, I want this 30 millimeters, and it's going to go 30 on one side, 30 on the other, or so half length, or I select the other one, whole length, meaning it's going to be 30 millimeters entirely. Not what I want. I want that to be, can't remember what size those come in. So let's say 60 overall. Great. Bam. Instant hinge already modeled onto the part. Great. So now I want to make the other half for the bottom. Select now the other component, bottom, and make sure to unhide the sketches because it automatically hides those things again, just to be irritating. All right. Extrude. Now I want, it's hard, if you have trouble selecting it inside of there, usually you can grab it, but if not, you can go in, hide that sketch or hide the top, and I want that bottom half chunk there. And now unhide again. Great. So I can start extruding, but now the problem is it's starting from that original spot. Well, here's where that start profile part or starting plane option comes in handy. I want to instead start from an object instead of from the construction plane. So I select the starting face of the hinge part that I already modeled. Snaps over. Let's make that a 10 millimeter. 15 seems a little bit beefier. Great. There you go. Now you can only model one side at a time on this. So that's going to join to the active component, which is the bottom. Great. Okay. Still there. Let's do the other side. Orbit around. Extrude. Select those bits. Starting point is from an object. Select the face of the hinge that I already started. And now let's go the other way. I want that to be 15, but negative because it's going the other way. All right. Operation still joined. Great. Easy way of modeling. Let me just reactivate the whole thing. There we go. Easy way of modeling a built-on hinge part. Now, could you model this separately? Of course, but why would you? It makes more sense to do this way. Okay. So we got that. We got that. Cool. Okay. So I want to now, well, let me go ahead and save again. Hinge modeled. Great. Okay. I'm doing on time. Let me pause for a second. Okay. Model the thing. It's got a basic joint on it. Cool. Now I got 2 steps left for this very basic model, effectively. I'm going to need hardware, but I'm also going to need to model in a joint. So first, let's do the joint, and then we'll drop it. I'll take you through the hardware selection there. So, of your utility tool or of your tools here, you got your drop-down assemble options. Now you got a bunch of other options here. Blah 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 blah. We can go through some of these later, but the default one is what we need: joint. As standard, mouse over it, gives you a nice little example. Also, J is, your hotkey. You can make things move relative to how you select things. All right, let's select there. Now you have this toolbox here. You have your position, which is literally locating where the joint is going to be located, between what components, and this is why it's very important that your parts are on separate components. They cannot be 2 bodies within the same component. The other tab here is your motion. You have a selection of motions. A rigid motion locks things in place. Revolute revolves. Slider, exactly as it sounds. Pin slot is it rotates within a slot, really convenient. I think I skipped one. Cylindrical means it rotates and slides up and down. That'll be handy for a later project. Planar, it's like it just moves around on a footing, like it's a greased spot. And then ball, it's a 360-degree orbiting object. Really cool. We're going to get to that in a moment. All right. Selection options. Component 1 and component 2. You select the first one of what is going to move. The second selection is to where it's going to move. And I say it this way, which will make a lot more sense in a few. When we import the hardware as new components, you can, instead of manually bringing them into place, you can use the joint command to snap them in place and lock them in place. But right now, we're going to use the joint command to animate this. All right. So first thing is selecting what's going to move, and then to where. Now, they're not going anywhere at the moment, but the first thing you select is what will move. Second thing you select is what it will move against. So what that means is I'm going to use my first selection as the lid, the second selection as the base. All right. Now, you've got some default settings here. You got simple, you got between 2 faces, and 2 intersection. First 2 are what we're going to be using. Simple is right in front of it. Between 2 faces is literally like here. If you have something that is like a long tubular section and you need the joint located right in the middle, you select the 2 ends and it automatically assumes the joint's in the middle. I'll show you both. All right. So the thing I want to move, the top, but I need to select, let me zoom in, down inside this barrel. Now, actually, the selection tools have been improved vastly over the last couple of years with Fusion. So actually, this is working perfectly. But just to show you how to go through it, if I was having trouble selecting inside of there, because I don't want to select out here because that's not where the joint is located. I want to put it between these two faces for now. So to do that, I'm going to hide the bottom component, and I want to select right in the middle. Now, sometimes you'll find it, sometimes it's hard to actually get the thing to snap right in the middle. You see how my, as I mouse over, it is highlighting the cylinder inside, and it is automatically being drawn right to the center. Awesome. Like I said, the selection tools are a lot better now. If you are having difficulty getting to the center of what is effect a hole, a cylinder, a empty space, what you can do is mouse over the plane that you want the joint to be located to, just over here. So when you see, as I mouse over this plane, right in the center, you see now, instead of the crosshairs or whatever, or that just that little vertice, now in the center of that cylinder, there's a plus sign and a square. That's showing you it is, the square shows you it is on the same plane as what you are currently mousing over, and the plus is where it's going to go. If you are having trouble, press and hold Control, and I believe that's Command on Mac, and it will lock your selection to only things on that plane. So now when I mouse over, snaps directly there, which it was already doing, but there you go. All right, my first selection is made. That first component ghosts out. Now let me unhide the bottom. I'm going to orbit over. Just want to resize. Now this is something, like I said, it is going right to the same spot, so no problem. But again, if I'm having trouble selecting that because there's stuff showing up, mouse over that plane, press and hold Control. I want it right there. All right. Now, right now, this is a rigid joint. So let's go through some options here. Rigid joint, select that. It's going to show that shaky thing. That's showing you that they are effectively like they're glued together like that. So if you were actually planning on modeling something that's multiple components, but you want to model it or wanted to model it as actually assembled like it were glued, you'd use a rigid joint. I'm going to stop that. That's giving me anxiety. Revolute is what we're going to be using. Woo! Spins around. Slider moves along that axis right in between those. Cylindrical does both. It combines revolute and cylinder. Or sorry, revolute and slider. Pin slot, as though an imaginary pin were there or slot was there. Planer shifts all over the place, but on that one plane. It doesn't make a lot of sense with this. And then orbit, if that were a ball joint. All right, done confusing you. We're just using the revolute. Okay, select. Great. Well, now what? Now you'll see, because I had the entire project active, there's a new drop down, joints. Expand that, move over, this little arrow key, select there. This is how we can actually add in restraints with it, or limits. So if I animate this, it's going to do a full 360. Stop it. I want to add some minimum and maximums. Now, if I zoom in, you'll see these little flags here. I can click and drag these. So if I want this to open like 180, I can either do that numerically or not. There we go. So I can do this with the flags or numerically. Problem is that's going the opposite direction. There we go. Animate that. What's going on here? There, pain. Come on. Must have grabbed the wrong one. There. Don't know why it's doing that. That's odd. Let me zero this back out here. Somehow I grabbed the wrong thing and it's just confusing the crap out of it. All right. Reactivate those. I want just the flag. Let's say to there. Okay. Don't know why it was doing that. Very strange. All right. So I used So I use these flag sliders, just grabbed one, moved it over, animate. There you go. It's going to go with those limits. Convenient. Click OK. Now, problem is by default, that should mean that joint is now linked to these components as they are set, as they are shown. Well, if I click and drag that, well, it's going to drag the whole thing. Now it's going to try to ask me to capture the position again. No, revert. I don't want any of that. What you need to do when you have a joint like this and you want to be able to click and drag to animate, you have to ground one of the objects. To do that, I'm going to ground the bottom. So I'm going to go to that component, mouse over the component name, right click, and the second option under activate is ground. Select that. You'll see a little red pin show up. Now that bottom component is absolutely locked in position. I can't click and drag that at all. If I need to move it, I have to right click again and unground. But now that that is grounded, click and drag the lid. It will move as your animation has been, or your animation joints have been placed. If I try to drag it further than 175 degrees, it won't move. Gives me the option. I can capture the position and revert it back to where it was. Cool. Okay. Save. Joints added. All righty. Cool. Yes.
What if we don't make a specific number for a minimum or a maximum?
It doesn't matter. I'm just showing you all how to add. Just showing you how to add like specific constraints, stuff like that. Yeah, you don't actually have to. All right. Let's plop some hardware in there. Under your Insert tab, instead of Canvas, open the drop down, cycling down to Insert, McMaster-Carr component. This opens up a new window. This is the same as it would show up if you were to log on to their website. So as you can see, there's like a whole lot of options they sell, but we're just worried about screws, bolts, and that sort of thing right now. I'm going to get a piece of threaded rod, and that hole I made was 3 millimeters long, or 3 millimeters wide. So I need to get 3 millimeters, or M3. Real convenient. Oh, that's pitch. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. I wanted thread size of M3. So select metric, M3. There we go. That's what I meant. All right. Now, how long was that part? That was 30. Those were 15, 15. So no, that was 60, 90. So let's find something. It's important to measure what you have first. 150 millimeters. Cool. Nope, nope, nope. I just need a threaded rod. Tapered in, straight, blah, 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 blah. This gets confusing, but basically I'm just trying to find something that sounds like it works. All right, so what you do is you go over to you mouse over the part itself. It'll highlight, or you'll have a single selection, just like if you're ordering parts. Click that. What you want is go to product detail. Actually, now it immediately shows up, but before, and you can still click product detail so you can see like the drawings and everything, and this is where you're actually doing like engineering stuffs. But you can import a prefab model of exactly that into your project. So open the selection box here. We are using the STEP, S-T-E-P. Now there's two options, STEP or no threads. No threads means it will still register as a threaded object in your program, but it will not model them just to save computing power. I'm going to see if I can blow up this computer at some point, so I'm going to leave it as a regular step. And just press download. It will bring it right into the project eventually, after it freaks out. There we go. All right. So I'm going to move this out of the way, rotate it 90 degrees. So it's there. And my old capture position friend comes up again. In the move copy toolbox, I can say capture position right where it is. Okay. Oh, that's a single rod. Doesn't have the threads anyway. I might have grabbed the wrong thing. Anyway. All right. So with this, I can either move it in place manually or snap it in place. I'm going to show you how to use the joints to snap things in place. All right. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to select joint. Now I want to snap again. My first selection is what will move. Second selection is to where it will move. But the trick is I need to select this in the middle. Now, as I said, selection has gotten significantly better with Fusion. As I mouse over it, you can see it is showing me, it looks like it's snapping what I'm going to assume is right in the middle. And the midpoint symbol is a triangle. I can actually select right there. Great. Oh, I see. It's threaded on one side. So this isn't actually what I wanted to have gotten. I'll get a different one later, but it serves its purpose. Now, the selection point, however, is I want to put it right in the middle. Now, luckily, I have my sketch there. If I didn't, I could use the between two faces, which means literally I select the two end faces and it assumes right between it. Cool. But awesome. I have my sketch there. I can just use right smack in the middle. Bam. It snaps that part right in place as needed. Motion, I can actually leave that as rigid because it's like it's glued in place. Okay. As I said, I totally grabbed the wrong thing. That is actually a larger bar with an internal threaded rod. So I'll have to fix that. But you can do other selection just the same. So in this case, let me hide this real quick because whoopsie daisy. But we're going to bring in some other parts. So insert, again, McMaster-Carr. Yep, I messed that one up. But I want to put in some nuts onto my bolt. All right. So, yay, cap nuts are always pretty. I like acorn nuts. They look nice. I need a metric one. I need M3 because that's the matching part. And then I can just select whatever. Stainless steel. Heck yeah. Shiny. Select there. I don't need to go to the product detail. It remembers my previous selection. Download or insertify. Plop. Drops it in. Move that over. Just get it out of the way. Again, these are adding new components. Let's rotate this in place. 90 degrees. And we'll capture the position. Great. Okay. Nice. New parts. Okay. Now what I want to do is, had I actually grabbed the correct threaded rod through there, I would need to snap these nuts onto the ends of the threaded rod. I didn't, so my bad. But either way, I'm going to use the same selection features to put them in place. I'm going to select the face of this nut. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What did I just do? There we go. And plop it right there. Now, this is, of course, a problem because I think this hinge that I made is a little too small. I can always go back and redraw it. That's convenient. But for now, joint. Now, the problem is, like I said, I want to select right in the middle there. But sometimes when you have threaded objects, internally threaded, this is where it really can kind of go a little bit screwy on you. Thread rod screws. Anyway, it makes it hard to select. And that's why I always stop telling you about mousing over the shared plane, press and hold control, and it'll snap only right there. Convenient. I want to do the same over here. Right there, it snaps in place. It looks like I don't need to do the press and hold command. Boom. It brings the nut over, drops it in place. Now again, way oversized. I totally needed to have redrawn this sketch larger. I still can. But where it is for now is good. It's a rigid joint. Animate it and freaks all out on me. That's okay. All right. I could do a second one. I can select this component, copy and paste. Second one. The only reason I'm doing that is because I can't duplicate this, or I can't have one object occupying two places. Standard time travel law there, in case you didn't know. Move that 180 degrees. Okay. Do the exact same thing. Joint. Find the center. Select. Drops it over for me. You use whatever sound effect you prefer. All right. Hardware added. All righty. I know I keep saying that. I got to work on that. It opens and closes. It has hardware, albeit I need to fix the hardware. But the other thing is I do need to fix that joint. And also, I hide the top. Well, that caliper is still just plopped in there. I need to make this actually fit the object, not just a container. But the good thing is because I have all this stuff already drawn, I don't have to go in and draw specific stuff. So what I can do, add a new component. Let's say insert. Where did I put that? There you are. Insert. New sketch. On that original plane, let's make sure it actually is. Yes. There we are. But I'm going to project a couple of things. I want that line. So this whole profile of the bottom. Hit OK. So I got that one. Do it again. But I now want, let's hide the bottom. And I want to make sure that I'm getting that caliper here. I want the lines of this caliper. Might be kind of a pain to select because it's doing that. Oops. There we go. I think I got all of it. Did I? Let's just clear that out and select the whole thing. Yeah, there we go. Got the whole thing. Excellent. Hide the caliper. Now I'm left with, bam, pre-done double line of what will be between the caliper and the walls. And with that, I can take that outline. Let's extrude it. I don't know, 5 millimeters. New body within that component. Awesome. Unhide all the things. Activate the whole component. I can open the lid up. Oops. Boop. All of that's all in there. All righty. And at this point, I can change over the appearances and start playing with that if I'd like. So at this point, I don't know. Let's say the inside is fabric. Sure. Ooh, leather. Let's make that component or that component leather for no good reason other than it was an option I saw. And we'll do, I don't know. Let's see here. Hey, gold. Let's be ostentatious as possible because options. A gold lid and a platinum base. Why not? All to hold. A painted, let's see here, glossy black caliper. Appearances are optional. There you go. So that's a really basic way of doing this. And capture some positions. Now, obviously, there's still plenty of stuff I can add to this, and I will. But gonna pause there, and I will continue it in a moment. Okay. Last parts, I want to fix what I done messed up. All right, to do this, first, I'm going to close the lid back up. It's going to offer a capture position. We make sure that that's actually closed. It is not entirely, so let me lock that down. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do to fix this, first, let me change back to auto color, and I'm going to hide the components that I brought in. Basically, what I'm going to do, and because of the way I built this parts, I should be able to redraw this sketch and move it out. However, I'm just realizing what I should have done is started with this and used offsets. So I might actually have to redraw this entirely. So let's see.
Why is the problem in the sketches and extrude items, not in the items you got?
It's both. Mainly that the problem is I need to enlarge the hinge because the hardware is too large. Like if I were to print this and I wanted to use this hardware, that would interfere. I couldn't. This wouldn't work.
Get a smaller one?
Probably,
Okay.
But I
Is
just
that
want-
easier?
yeah. But I want to show you all how to fix a problem. Because you can always just, if that's an easier option, then go ahead and go with downloading new hardware, which you totally can do. I just want to show you how to fix stuff. So what to do is basically find what you're doing, and then stupid pop up. Where are you? Of course, problem is you got to find which one it was. Close, close, close. Sketch. All right. Let's edit this sketch, as always. Edit the sketch. All right. Let's see if I can first, because these are tangents, I'm not sure if I can or not, but I might be able to just move these sketch components out. All right. Move. Hey, there we go. So because I attached these lines with constraints, it's letting me just drag all of this out a bit. So it is not altering, or I'm not going to have to redraw stuff. This is what I was hoping. I couldn't remember if it would or not. So all this is interlinked, and these sketch lines were drawn in simply with constraints built in. So that means that instead of them having inherent information of where they were originally drawn to, how they're located and how they're put in is totally subjective, meaning that it is locked to in relation to other sketch objects rather than the object itself. So now I hit OK. Do that. Let's see if it completely recombobulates everything. Yeah, a little bit. It messed me up a little bit, but that's all right. Not that big a deal. So all I need to do is, weirdly enough, it maintained the tubes, the extrusions of just the hinge, but without the actual connection. That's fine. That's something I can totally fix. All right. So let's go activate the bottom first. Well, let's do the top first. That'll be easier. All right. Let me hide the bottom so I can see what I'm doing here. And I just need to find the last or the tool that was related to. So that's an extrude, edit feature, all of that, good, but I just need to make sure to select now the rest of the hinge. Now, is this way overbuilt? Oh God, yeah. That's way more than it needs, but that's okay. It's all for modeling purposes. Great, now that's linked again. Okay, do the other one, open up the bottom, activate that. Where are my sketches or extrusions? Edit feature, same. This might cause some problems. Nope, we're good. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, I think I might even have to redraw this a little bit, because now the problem is see, these hinge parts are now creating something else entirely, meaning that this is now making an overreaching part. I'd actually need to trim this. Well, that's not that big a deal. All right. So now redraw that, open those back up. And because of how I built all of this, my parts snap back into place, or are still snapped in place relative to how they were. So now there's plenty of clearance for that nut. But as I said, that also messed up the other part. That's all right. I can fix that too. You tweak one thing, you're gonna have to fix some others. Anyhow, so in other words, yes, the answer probably would have been finding smaller hardware, but fixing problems also good. All right, other stuff I can do on this is obviously adding fillets, stuff like that. This is just cosmetic stuff at this moment. Let's add just like a little rounded underneath. Great. Other stuff is, let's see here. I wanted to show you how, like, as I was working on, say, the top here. Resize. Original sketch. I wanted to add like a little thumb, like thumb catch or something. So with that, I went back to the original sketch for the lid, just the lid, and I have my shared projected lines. I want to use a circle in this case and just intersect. And I don't know, let's say 10. Now let's make it 15. Just a little circle. Excuse me. Trim that all off. Finish sketch. And all I'm doing for that, the only reason I wanted to do that is so now I want to go. I can hit another extrude with that and pull that up. Nope, too far. 3, 2.5. Now it's got a little thumb catch. And just stuff like that. Being able to add little parts like that. And of course, hiding sketches because, wow, this is getting a little congested here. And we'll hide the caliper for the moment. So that was just adding like a little thumb catch in there and such. That's all. Yeah.
The bar you downloaded,
Yes.
it's way too large and
Yes.
it's bigger than the original. It's supposed to go this side, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The original bar I downloaded is way wrong.
Yeah.
So let's get rid of that. Yeah, get rid of that component and along with whatever it's attached, and let's actually find the right part. McMaster-Carr, threaded rod, an M3 piece of threaded rod. I don't know how I selected what I did before, but I just want a bit of threaded rod that is 300. Sure, I'll trim it down. So 300 millimeter, that's gonna be way longer than I need, but that's all right. Download. Let it thinkify. And this is what I was talking about as far as if you wanted to select the not modeled, because modeling all those threads, there's a lot of parts, and this computer ain't that strong. Let me pause the video a second. Resume this. Okay, so computer finally caught up. And that's definitely what I was talking about with selecting the not modeled, because it will, if I zoom in here, you can see all the threads there. But I'm going to cut it down so it'll definitely save it a little bit. So I'm going to capture position. Okay. Now, the trick is, what do I actually need? So let's use the inspect tool to measure. I'm going to hide those 2 acorn nuts at either end, and I'm going to see, let's see here. I'm going to measure from that ring to there, and that is 90 millimeters. Okay, now I need at least a little bit more so it would actually thread onto those nuts. As we're modeling this, it's not actually linking to either of those. So the fact that the threaded meshes are not actually like interlinking, they're not actually threaded together, it's all right. It's all for looks. But let's say I need this to be 100 millimeters then. Okay. So what I can do, and this is something we haven't really talked about yet, but I can chop bodies apart and such. It's just, the more you talk with these assignments, it just sounds creepier and creepier. There's different ways of cutting these things apart. Still not helping. All right. So one of the ways is under modify, you have 2 options here of split face and split body. We're going to get into these more when we do the modeling, when we do form modeling, which is more sculpting. But an easy way is split body. And what that is it's simply you take whatever line drawing, so basically a sketch or other ways, and you place it as long as it intersects with the body you want to cut down, select that, and it will chop it in half, but it won't, but it'll also, like you were actually physically cutting something in half, it will still leave proper faces intact. So yeah, I know there's no way that none of that doesn't sound just unsettling as can be. So I'm going to use a construction plane, or yeah. Now this is something we're going to use more in a later project, but basically what it's doing, what a construction plane is, let me hide all of this stuff here. These origin planes, that's your starting point for everything. A construction plane is simply making an imaginary plane somewhere else away from those planes. That's all. So I'm going to start a construction plane. And what I want to do is basically along the length of this threaded rod, I want to put one where I need it to be so I can chop the thing into two different parts. So I can select either, I can use one of these, the existing construction planes to build off from, or since I need it literally in relation to this threaded rod, let me zoom in and I can just select the face of that rod. So now you can see it's this imaginary other plane just there. And I need this thing to, I need a section of this threaded rod about 100 millimeters long. So I can either drag it in that direction, which is negative because it's going against, but we'll say negative 100. Okay. That is now right there. So now I can go to the modify, split body, bodies to split is that whole thing. My splitting tool is that plane. Click OK. Now, when I open up that component, there's now two bodies. Still not helping. So if I just hide the other one entirely, oops, the first one, and I can also hide that construction plane because that opened up a new thing there. Now I have a part trimmed down from something I imported. If I were just modeling this as is, I would have just made it 100 millimeters, and this guy could have easily modeled, but I want to show you all how to do that stuff. So, all right. Now I can move this stuff around. All right. Got this guy? Joint. Now, this is the part where I was talking about threads make selecting really difficult. So in order to select smack in the middle, like I had with that smooth cylinder, this is a perfect place to use the between faces. So what it is I'm just selecting one side of that threaded rod and the other, and it is inferring exactly smack in the middle as my my selection point. So between two faces, I select there, and I select there, snap, right in the middle. Problem is it's still trying to select the side of those threaded rod. Let's see if I can. There we go. So now you see, if I was trying to mouse over, it's still trying to grab like any of the faces of that threaded rod. But as I mouse over one of the sides of the face, one of the faces I'm using, if I snap, or if I use that same snapping tool and select right in the middle, you see how now in the center of that threaded rod, it is selecting over there. That's what I want. Okay. Right in the middle of all the things. In the middle of the tube, or the threaded rod, and lengthwise. Great. Okay. And now I'm going to select it to inside there. It's just a lot easier. You can see as I mouse over that internal tube, my midpoint triangle shows up. Boop. There we go. Now it drops it in place properly, and it's the thing that I wanted. We can keep it as a rigid joint. Great. Okay. Unhide my screw caps. There we go. Now I'd still need to adjust this hinge because it obviously would interfere with itself. But that fixed a lot of stuff. Whoops. If I could spell, that would fix other things. Alrighty. Now I'll go in and adjust this. I'll adjust this model later. Basically, all it would be is, if I look at it from the side, I just need to trim out sections that would cause interference. That's all.
That's it.
That's pretty much it. So, all right. So good luck with it. Ask questions, please. Let me finish this modeling here. So basically the last step here is I just need to fix this hinge. So what I can do, I'll go back to my original sketches. I need to edit that sketch. And all I'm going to do is draw in some more lines that will split between, because originally the top and bottom tab was divided because this circle was actually making contact with the box. Now it's not. So what I need to do is just add some more lines to this. So I'm going to use from here, I'm going to basically imagine drawing both the top and the bottom tab. So I'm going to start from here and I'm going to use a snap. You can see my tangent snap appears, my constraint appears right there. Great, that's what I want. And I'm going to draw another one, do the exact same thing from here. Where's my tangent? Should be right about there. Great. Okay. This will make sense in a moment. Finished sketch. That's going to mess things up probably, but let's see. Let me go to each component and let's fix this. Hide the bottom, fix the top. Basically, all I need to do is chop out all this bottom overhang thing. So let me activate that component, find the extrusion. That one, which one is it? Nope, that one. Edit feature, and what I need to do is simply deselect some sketch parts. So, whoops, it hit my sketches. Where'd my sketches go? Oh, there they are. I want that one and the top, and then this intersecting wedge here. There we are. No change other than I just wanted to not select the rest of that hinge. Okay. Hide the bottom. Well, I probably need that. Activate the bottom now, rather, and redo those extrusions. Edit that. Deselect. I'm having trouble selecting the. There we go. I need the ring. I need the bottom half, and again that intersecting tangent. There you go. Do the same for the other side. Orbit around. Edit feature. Chop them all off, and then redraw the bottom tab and the intersecting tab. Oops. There we go. That's it. Just needed to redraw those parts or edit those parts a little bit. And I just use tangents to make it easier for myself. There we go. Now that would open properly and not interfere with everything. It would have worked it would have modeled before just fine, but obviously if I were to print that, it would not at all function the way it was because those tab parts were interfering with everything. And there you go. Easy way to fix all that stuff. Let's unhide the acorn nuts and let's hide some sketches and all of that fun. Where's the caliper line? Let's hide those sketches because that was getting confusing. Collapse a bunch of stuff, and I'll leave the lid open. Oops. I'll put it there. It really doesn't matter. Oh, I need to unhide the insert. We'll shift back over to the applied appearances. All righty. Oh, wait. Capture the new position for the lid. Save. And this is hinges fixed. There we go. Okay. Just a couple of quick lines. Fix the parts I needed. That's pretty much it. So find something you want to either put in a container and make a container for it, or wait for the more utilitarian part. But either way, it's a lot of the same drawings, a lot of the same tools, just added joints and importing hardware, just used in slightly different ways. So good luck with it all, and please ask questions. Yes.